Hey everybody, this is Ryan from Safe Easy Tech, and this week we're talking about what parents need to know about Pokemon Go. It's a crazy game. It's a game that has taken the world by storm here, and it's been in the news for all different kinds of reasons over the last week or so. You've seen pictures about it on Facebook and just all kind of crazy stuff. But it is what it is. So it's a very, very impressive game for a lot of different reasons, and there are some benefits to it as well. So we're going to take a look at it here and break it down. So Pokemon Go is a free-to-play game. It's considered an augmented reality game, and we're going to talk about augmented reality and what that means here in just a minute. But it's developed by a company called Niantic, I believe is how you pronounce it. And they had made a game previously to Pokemon Go that was kind of similar, but not related to Pokemon, where you could travel around the world, look through things through augmented reality. And then they've taken that and they've turned that into this game here. So Pokemon, of course, is the Nintendo franchise that's been super popular, started kind of getting really big in the mid to late 90s, and then hasn't really tapered off a whole lot. There's been cartoons, there's been tons and tons of games, especially for the Game Boy, Game Boy Advanced, Game Boy Color, all those little handheld devices is where it's been the most popular for sure. But there's also been some bigger consoles as well. So there's just going to be kind of some stuff going on in the background here. I pre-recorded some footage from being out and about playing it. So you start the game by getting to choose one of 3 Pokemon, and I chose the Bulbasaur there. And it kind of does a good job of explaining the game. You do have to turn the camera on to be able to catch Pokemon. So they give you a choice, but you can't really do much if you don't use the camera. It looks kind of like that, as you can see. So a green circle pops up. When the circle is as big as possible, you throw your Pokeball by flicking it on the screen. Now you can see my desk in the background there. So that's what the augmented reality part of this game means. It means that you actually use your camera, you use the world around you, you use your GPS to catch Pokemon. So as you catch them, they get added to your little Pokedex there, so you can see them, you feed them, they evolve over time, and that's pretty much the deal. So a couple of things to look out for is that you do have to use it in the real world. So you can see my avatar there walking around. This is actually in a mall that's nearby me, is where I'm recording this portion of the footage here. And so there's stuff all over the place. This is a Pokestop, which are placed around real things like fountains, statues, museums, basically points of interest around the real world. You walk up to those places, they register on the map, you spin the little deal, and you get Pokeballs, which you need for catching Pokemon, and you also get eggs. And then the eggs you can take and you can put into an incubator. And while that egg is in the incubator, when you walk in the real world, the incubator starts hatching the egg for you. So some of them take anywhere from 2 to up to 10 kilometers of walking. It's pretty hard to fool. You can drive super slow in your car and it might think you're walking, but you can't just be driving down the highway and it hatch. And they're kind of working on that off and on. So you're going to see lots of footage of me walking around the mall here. This is just me looking at the mall floor, catching Pokemon. So what is there to know about the game that you can't see from here? Well, when you reach level 5, you have gyms, and you'll see one pop up here in just a minute, but there's gyms around the world where you can battle for control of those gyms. When you win the gym fights, they give you real coins that normally would be purchased with money. You can see a gym there in the background. It's the Blue Tower. You have to be a fairly high level. They're pretty competitive. Now, here's the interesting thing about this game. So as I was walking through the mall when I was recording this, I actually saw 3 girls in their late teens or so sitting on a bench in the mall right where the gym was. There's multiple gyms in the mall that's near me, but they were sitting there in that gym and they were literally defending that gym, because when someone beats a gym, someone else can come in and they can take it over. Well, they were sitting there so that if anyone did take their gym, they could immediately take it back, and basically defending it. So the girls had gotten up at 9 a.m. or so, driven to the mall, so that there's a gym there, driven to the mall, and then just were planning on parking for I don't know how long on that bench so that they could defend their gym and no one could take it from them. So as a gamer my entire life, this is what's so crazy about this game. I've been a gamer almost my entire life. I've played a lot of games. I've played games like World of Warcraft. I've played a lot of first-person shooters, Counter-Strike, all the stuff that you read crazy stories about people, just going crazy over them and destroying their lives because that's all they want to do. I have never seen a commitment level to a game like I've seen to Pokemon Go. And I could see how you could get pulled into that a little bit because as I was walking around the mall, I actually had an appointment that I had to get to. But I didn't want to leave. My battery was going to die. So that was one thing. I couldn't have stayed anyway. But, it encourages you because they just keep popping up. The more you're in populated areas, they don't really go anywhere. You might start getting the same ones. It might get repetitive after a little bit. But at least when you first pick it up and start playing it, it is a little addictive. You want to walk around, then you start getting eggs and you're like, well, I want to walk and I want to hatch this egg and see what's in there. So there is definitely a sense of like, I want to keep going. And I've heard stories of people driving in small towns where there's only one gym in the entire town. People will drive to those areas and they literally camp out and they don't go anywhere so that they can defend their gym. And people have to get in groups and combine up to drive to that location to be able to beat the people there that are defending that gym. Just crazy things that I've never heard of before. And these are people that didn't play. They've never played games. I mean, they've played other cell phone games, but they haven't played the big, MMOs where you have to do 3-hour raids, and they've never played, big long strategy games that you stretch over the course of, weeks where you do multiple sessions with friends. They've never been that level of gamer, but they're way beyond that level of gamer when it comes to Pokemon Go. So definitely an interesting cultural deal. I saw people walking through the mall that it was always in groups. So I was one of the few people I saw that had their phone out that was obviously playing the game, that was by myself. Almost everyone else was with a group of at least 2, but mostly 3 to 5 seemed to be kind of the typical number. Then when I was walking through the food court, I saw a group of 3 that had met up with a guy that was a stranger to them from the talks of their conversation, but he saw they were playing and walked up and started offering them advice. And they met a stranger and got a whole friendly conversation going about the best way to look for and find Pokemon and capture them. So it's also enabling people to form relationships and meet people that they would have never said hi to had they not seen that they both had a phone in their hand and were flicking their fingers forward trying to catch Pokemon. So it's just this interesting paradox of people that are getting out. They're coming back from the weekends with tans because they've been out walking. I heard a guy the other day that said that he had walked like 8 miles because he spent all Saturday just walking around looking for Pokemon and hatching eggs. And this is a guy that would have never been out. He had never just gone, hey, I'm going to go walk 8 miles today on my weekend. I don't know what he would have done because I don't know him personally, but it sounded like he probably wouldn't have done that. So it's a game that's getting people to get out and meet people. It's getting people to get out and be physical. But it's a game, and so it's got this really weird thing to it. And so you're going to hear a lot of stories like that. Of course, there's been the downside of the stories. Just yesterday, 2 men weren't paying attention while they were walking around, and they actually fell off a cliff because they lost their footing, couldn't really tell what they were doing, and did that. You have the girl that found a body in a river as she was walking through the park. There's the people that have waited in these big hot spots like what you can see kind of there on the screen that aren't in the middle of malls or maybe in cities that aren't quite as populated, and people have been robbed at those places because they're drawn to them because the game kind of leads them there. So there's just all this crazy stuff that you can hear. But what does this mean for you as a parent? What does this mean for your kids? So let's break that down and let's take a look at that real quick. One of the things that I saw where there were several parents with their kids walking through the mall, and sometimes it was just the parent that had a phone if the kid was really young. Sometimes it was both of them. They both had their phones out and they were playing together. And so one of the things about this is that there's a lot of parents out there and adults that are enjoying it just as much as the kids, and there's a lot of adults that are playing it by themselves just because it's a phone apps. There's some kind of, even though there's a stigma attached to console games and computer games and stuff, for some reason, anything on the phone is fair game to people, at least to a lot of people. And so they're playing it, which is creating kind of it's creating this camaraderie in a relational sense between parents and their kids that hasn't really been done except for very few situations before, like with consoles or something like that. So I think the interesting thing and the challenge for that is if you're going to go out, so if your kid isn't old enough to drive, I wouldn't let them go out and play this game by themselves. That's just my 2 cents, my advice to you. I would let them do what you would let them do normally. So basically what I'm saying is I wouldn't let them do anything extra just for the sake of Pokemon Go. If they're 12 years old and you let them get a ride to the mall with their, friend's mom or whatever, and they hang out in the mall for a few hours every, couple of days during the summer, I would let them do that while playing Pokemon Go, assuming that they don't leave the mall. They don't like run out across the parking lot looking for some super rare Pokemon. And you have to know, where your kids are at, if they know those boundaries or not. If your kid is, 7 and you let them play within 3 houses of either side on you, but that's it. Those are their boundaries for playing by themselves, which that seems maybe extreme for that. I don't know. It depends on how your family's your family, right? But that's what I would let them do while playing Pokemon Go. And I would make it really clear. You do not go, the rules haven't changed just because you're playing a game. You don't go beyond this point. And if you trust your kid with that, then great. But otherwise, I wouldn't let them do anything extra for it. I would go with them. I would play it with them. But I also want to challenge you guys too, because the interesting thing that I've seen on this is that parents have like embraced playing this game with their kids and going out and playing it with them. But they don't always do that with other games. And so it's less common for a parent to sit down and say, oh, let's play, hey, 14-year-old, you're really into this game on the computer. It's a free game. Let me sit down and I'll play some Hearthstone with you, or I'll play, fill in the blank with you. Because there's like a relationship that gets developed that I'm seeing where parents and kids are really having fun together playing this game. I saw several examples of this when I was in the mall. They seem to really be having a blast playing it together. And so my challenge is, why not do it with other games? Why is it just this one where there's a safety element concerned? And if you're not interested as much in building the relational element, why are we more concerned about the physical safety of our kids than we are the emotional safety, or the mental safety of our kids? Because, this game brings up some physical safety issues and we're like, oh man, we got to be with them. We got to be with them. But other games could have just as many other potential issues for other things. But because it's not a physical safety thing, we kind of just let them play it in their room. So, and you may not be in that crowd, but there are some people who are. So I just want to kind of challenge us as a collective family of, let's be more involved in everything that our kids are doing, and not just the stuff that could have, physical repercussions. But definitely I would use caution. But get out there, play it with your kids, try it out. If they're getting too crazy with it, then do it in reserve. If your kids are those kids that get really caught up in this stuff and they want to look at every single thing they see, I would not let them play it in the car. Obviously, you don't want to play it in the car, period, if you're driving, but things pop up all the time. And I did it as a test just for this video. I left it up while I was driving home from the mall. But as I was driving, there's all these little things that you can see some on the screen right there that pop up that kind of indicate that Pokemon are nearby, but you don't know where. And so if you feel like your kids might be the kids that would be like, pull over, we got to go over there, I think there's a da-da-da-da nearby, then you probably don't want to let them play in the car. You probably want to say, wait till we get to where we're going. Then you can get, then you can get on my phone, or then you can get out your iPad or whatever it is you're playing on. And then you can play. But you can't play in the car, because they're going to constantly want to pull over and find Pokemon that they're seeing on the side of the road. It's definitely less rare. It's way harder to get them from the road. It can be done. I've heard people doing it, but you typically have to, be walking around shops near places that are kind of more populated, stationary areas. So that's kind of the brief intro that I've got right now for Pokemon Go. If you've got more questions, if you want to know more about it, if you want tips and tricks for it, maybe your family's really enjoying it and you just want to know, hey, how do we really jump into this and really get the fullest out of it? Like and subscribe to the video. Mention something in the comments below. Let me know what questions you have. Let me know if you want to see a more in-depth video around the gameplay itself, and I can definitely put that together for you guys. But this is a crazy game. It opens up a ton of possibilities where the gaming world is meshing with the real world. And so there's a ton of stuff worth talking about there in the future. So let me know what y'all think. But until then, you're set. Overwatch is the widely popular, super successful game from Blizzard Activision. It's got over 10 million players now. It's rated T for teen, and I agree with that rating. I think it's fairly accurate. It's rated teen for violence and also for this guy right here, who, as you can see, has a cigar in his mouth. That's actually why they say it has a teen rating. So smoking is a big deal, so make sure you're aware of that. He smokes in the game. Outside of that, it's just what you would expect. It's a first-person shooter.